There's this belief that a large purchase requires a massive, high-pressure sales pitch. But what if that's actually the biggest strategic failure you can make? What if the whole game is won with just one tiny yes from your customer? Today, we're exploring the architecture behind that very idea. We're going way beyond simple email sequences and diving into automation trees. Think of this as the strategic blueprint for a marketing engine that runs itself with absolute precision, 24/7. This is all about how to code the perfect personalized response right into your system, creating something that just never sleeps.
Everything really starts with this paradox. All the conventional wisdom out there tells you that to get a big commitment, you need a big, persuasive argument. But what if I told you that's just wrong? That the key isn't some final, huge effort, but actually a series of small, almost effortless agreements. The real secret is getting that first, low-friction yes, because that's what kicks off a psychological chain reaction. It's not about overwhelming people with information, it's about inviting them on a journey that they themselves feel compelled to finish. And the engine driving all of this is a fascinating little quirk of human psychology. And that engine? It's called commitment bias. It's this deeply human need to stay consistent with decisions we've already made. Once we make even a tiny commitment, say downloading a guide or clicking a specific link, our brain immediately starts working to justify that action. We tell ourselves, well, I must have been interested for a reason. And that makes it so much more likely that we'll follow through on bigger commitments later on. You see, it's not about some external persuasion. It's about switching on a person's own internal need to be consistent.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, our journey today is broken down into 5 key parts. First, we'll dig a little deeper into that strategic paradox, the crisis it's designed to solve. Then, we're going to architect the blueprint for the automation tree itself, piece by piece. From there, we'll explore the psychology of now to understand exactly why this system is so powerful. Then, I'll give you a practical framework for mastery before we wrap it all up with the final core insight that ties this all together.
Okay, let's dive into section 1, the strategic paradox. And this isn't just some abstract business theory. We're talking about solving a very real crisis, the kind of friction and time zone delays that quietly kill sales for pretty much any business online. It's the silent killer of momentum.
Let's make this super concrete. So on the left, you've got the old manual way. A prospect in London visits your pricing page at 10 p.m. their time. That's 2 p.m. in your California office. By the time your team sees the alert and gets a response out the next morning, a full 12 hours have passed. The message they get is generic, and that white-hot interest they had has cooled way, way down. Your entire operation is basically a hostage to your 9-to-5 schedule. Now look at the right, the automated way. The prospect hits the page, and literally 60 seconds later, a perfectly relevant message lands in their inbox. The system is always on, always listening, 24/7. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a total shift from being reactive to truly proactive.
So now that we know the problem, that brings us to section 2, the automation tree blueprint. This is where we say goodbye to that old school straight line thinking, where everyone gets email 1, then email 2. We're stepping into the much smarter, much more powerful world of dynamic branching logic.
This whole architecture, this entire autonomous system, it really just rests on 3 foundational pillars. If you can get your head around these 3 components, you'll understand exactly how this machine works with such autonomy and precision. These are the building blocks of intelligent marketing. And the best way to think about this is like an actual tree. It all starts with the roots. Those are the event triggers, sensing what's happening. Those roots feed the branches, which is the conditional logic, deciding where to go. And finally, you get the leaves, the automated actions. That's the visible, tangible result of the whole system's intelligence. So let's break each one of these down. So first up, the root of our tree, event triggers. Think of these as the system's sensors. They're just constantly listening for specific, high-intent behaviors from your customers. For an e-commerce store, a trigger could be adding something to a cart but not checking out. For a software company, it might be a user watching 75% of a product demo. Each one of these events is a signal. It's a digital hand raise that says, hey, I'm interested right now, and that's what kicks off a unique, personalized journey.
Okay, next up is the brain of the whole operation, conditional logic. This is the absolute key that separates a basic, dumb sequence from an intelligent system. A linear sequence just sends the same thing to everybody, but branching logic, that creates personalized paths. For example, if a user from a big company downloads a case study, then send them an email from a senior account executive offering a strategy call. Else, if the user is from a small company, then send them a link to a self-serve webinar.
It's this simple if-then-else structure that lets you treat every single person like an individual with their own unique context. And finally, we have the leaves. These are the tangible things that happen because of all that logic, the automated actions. And we're talking way more than just email here. An action could be an SMS with a special offer. It could be an internal Slack notification to a sales rep, letting them know a key account is showing buying signals. It could even be automatically updating their contact record in your CRM, moving them from cold to hot. The most important part here is that these actions happen instantly, based on the unique path that customer just carved out for themselves. Okay, so that brings us to section 3. We've seen the mechanics of how this tree works. Now it's time to dig into the psychology of why it works so incredibly well. And really, it all comes down to the power of now. The architecture is brilliant, but it's the understanding of human behavior that makes it truly unbeatable. The core principle here is something called the recency effect. Our brands are literally hardwired to give more weight to information we've just seen. Think about it. If someone asks you to name a brand of soda, you're way more likely to name one you saw on a billboard 2 minutes ago than one you saw yesterday. The same thing is true for your customers. When they're on your pricing page, their intent is at an absolute peak in that moment. An automated response that hits their inbox 60 seconds later strikes while the iron is hot. A manual response that shows up 6 hours later, that's ancient history. The automation tree is engineered to maximize that recency effect every single time. But that leads to a really important question, right? I mean, speed is great, but speed without relevance is just sophisticated spam. An instant generic message can actually do more harm than good because it just shows the customer you don't really get them. So how does the system make sure that every single message is not just fast, but also deeply relevant to that specific person in that specific moment? And the answer, the thing that makes this whole system sing, is the concept this architecture unlocks: personalization at scale. This is pretty much the holy grail of marketing. That branching if-then-else logic we were just talking about, that's the engine that delivers it. Because the system isn't just one path. It could be hundreds, even thousands of potential paths. It can deliver a message that feels perfectly one-to-one, tailored to their industry, their company size, whatever they just did, even if you're talking to thousands of people at once.
And when you get this right, the benefits just start stacking up. You finally break free from that generic one-size-fits-all automation. This naturally drives up engagement and conversions because your messages are actually useful. By being both timely and relevant, you dramatically boost the odds that someone takes that next step. And crucially, you reduce their cognitive load. You're not making them think. You're anticipating their next move and giving them the answer right when they need it. It just creates a seamless, intelligent experience. All right, so that brings us to section 4, a framework for mastery. We've gone through the theory, the architecture, and the psychology. Now let's get practical with a clear 3-step path to actually building one of these powerful systems for yourself.
There are really 3 key stages to mastering this. First, you have to audit the customer behavior map. That just means deeply understanding the digital journey your best customers are already taking. Second, you have to design for contingency, which means building the system to handle failure gracefully. And third, you have to execute a comprehensive stress test to make sure every single branch works exactly as you expect before you go live. Now, I really want to double-click on that second step because this part is absolutely non-negotiable. It's the contingency mandate. For every single critical if-then condition in your tree, there has to be an else. If the user clicks the link, then do this. But what if they don't? That's your else. It's your safety net. It guarantees that no matter what a user does or doesn't do, there's always a planned next step. Without that else condition, your automation has a dead end, and a dead end is where the whole system falls apart. And this forces you to ask a really tough question during the design phase. What are the real-world consequences if just one single branch in this whole complex tree breaks or leads to one of those dead ends? And trust me, this isn't some hypothetical problem. It's an inevitability if you don't plan for it. The answer is pretty stark: systemic failure and customer chaos. See, a broken branch doesn't just affect one person. It creates a domino effect of errors. A brand new customer gets an email meant for someone whose trial is about to end. A really promising lead falls into a black hole and never hears from you again. It completely erodes trust and just torches potential revenue. The stakes here are incredibly high, which is why designing for every contingency and stress testing are not optional. They're the bedrock of a reliable system. And that brings us to our 5th and final section, the final coded insight. This is where we pull all these pieces, the architecture, the psychology, and synthesize them into one core idea. You are literally coding personality and intelligence directly into your process.
So let's just recap the big takeaways here. First, we've learned that true scalability only happens when you get rid of manual friction and your dependency on time zones. Second, this entire system is built to weaponize the recency effect through instant, hyper-relevant communication. And third, the end goal here is a self-sustaining system, a marketing asset that just runs with perfect fidelity 24/7, generating value whether you're at your desk or not.
And that leaves us with this final thought. The old way was all about pushing people through some generic, rigid funnel. This new model is completely different. The best marketing doesn't push, it doesn't force. It anticipates, it listens, and it responds with perfect relevance because it codes the perfect, personalized response directly into the system itself.